Welcome to the 209 Headlines podcast, everybody. I'm Frankie Tovar. I'm holding it down solo today. As far as hosts go, Angelina Martin is not here. That's because this is a special episode. We have the video camera out, and we have a special guest, Khai, 22-year-old bantamweight fighting out of Tracy, California. We're talking to Khai because he'll be making his United States professional debut on Saturday at Bellator 199 in San Jose. He's 1-0 professionally, and he is fighting out of Tracy again at 209 native. Welcome to the podcast, Khai.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you will be fighting on the preliminary card of the King Mo Bader Bellator fight. How are you feeling as you're kind of days away from that big event?
I feel great. The weight cut's way easier in the United States than it is in Asia because Asia has all the nice food and it just the cheap prices and it's just hard to cut weight over there.
Harder to be more disciplined over there.
That and also it's harder to find variety of foods.
Oh, I gotcha.
Like there's no Whole Foods out there. The fruit there is great, but it's more along the lines of just accessibility. So I feel great. The weight cut has never been this easy for me, and cutting a 35 isn't a norm that I usually do. This is like my second time doing it, but it's so easy actually, so I'm surprised.
So for people out there not familiar with MMA, mixed martial arts, bantamweight is 135, but you have to make a 136 limit. Weight cut is a big part of this sport, more so than others. What is your walk around weight? How much do you have to cut for a fight for bantamweight?
For this fight, I weigh 157 about a month and a half ago. So that I was kind of big walking around. I don't think I've ever gotten that big other than 158. I got to 158 one time, but I knew might be on call. And then when I started this camp, I started dieting down, and then I didn't really lose much weight until 2 days ago. I was 150, and then today I'm 140, I believe, this morning. So
that's outrageous. How do you go about losing that amount of weight in that amount of time?
The secret, in my opinion, is you need to be disciplined. Like, it will break you. Fighting's so much easier than weight cutting, because fighting, you just got to get the guy out of there. Boom, it's in your hands. But then when you have to fight your own body, that's the meaning of true discipline. And also, I have to really thank my nutritionist, Arena. She sends me these like daily foods. Like she gives me this list of like if I want to snack on food. She's good. I recommend that if
it's
fighters
like a meal plan.
She's fantastic. She just sends it. She emails me everything, so it makes my life easy because I got to deal with a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, you're in the gym all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Gym, sponsor shoots, all this other stuff here. But when she gives me a meal plan, it's just all this other stuff, just easy,
Yeah, I follow you on social media, and you mentioned sponsor shoots. You've been really busy. We'll touch on that in a little bit. But you're talking about weight cuts. A weight cut is one thing when you have a long camp and you can schedule it out. Mm-hmm. You just said on call. So what was the time period that you got the call that they wanted you on Bellator to where you know that you're confirmed going to be fighting on Saturday?
Okay, so I fought February 3rd in Taiwan, and then when I came back, I like to stay active, so I decided...
That was your pro debut, right?
Yeah, that was my pro debut, exactly. I made my pro debut in Taiwan, and when I came back, I let it soak in because this was like years in the making, obviously, and then I thought I want to get back into it right away. So about a month and a half after, about 2 weeks after coming back and wrestling, I would jump back into the gym. I was looking for a fight, and I had a fight, but then it fell through. A couple fights fell through. So I've been training then for about like 2 months already, ever since coming back. And then there was a little behind the scenes rumor with Bellator. And I was like, they're coming to San Jose. And I'm like, great. Maybe I could throw my hat in the ring after making that debut, especially it was under a minute. I got a knockout. So I think that was my kind of bargaining chip. And then a decent fan base. I've been getting a lot of support. I couldn't be doing this without the support that I have from the local people. And then I think that's what helped too. Just a lot of people chattering, and then the Bellator just was like, all right, let's try it.
Give them a shot.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing.
So you say support, you mean support from Tracy? Is that where you're located, your base of operations?
Yeah, absolutely. People in Tracy are very supportive, especially with the fact that I grew up for like all my high school years. I grew up in Tracy. I moved to Asia when I was in 3rd grade to 5th grade, Taiwan, for about 2-3 years, and I came back. And then my childhood was in San Jose. So then it's like perfect,
So it's almost like back-to-back homecomings for your two first pro fights, because the first one was in Taipei, right? Taiwan.
Taipei, Taiwan. That's right. That's a good name. Homecoming. I like that.
There you go. Back-to-back. How was that? Did it feel like a homecoming when you were in Taiwan, or were you so young during your days there that it wasn't really that much of
Oh,
a connection?
no. I remember everything. Going back to Taiwan, they treated me like a rock star. And that's why I have my friends around me, to keep me humble, because out there, they're inflating my ego. I'm not going to lie. But being a martial artist, obviously, I saw things wrong in my fight, even though it ended under a minute. Most people, like people who don't train don't see it. So they're easily, able to compliment you. But you got to ground yourself. I have great coaches, and they just tell me, they're like, hey, that was good, but we could work on this. So you just get back into the gym. You can't have that fighter mentality where you win a fight, you go celebrate. It's not about that. Longevity wise, it's not good for your career. Martial artist is a lifestyle, so it doesn't matter like when there's a fight. I'm just always training, always prepared.
Always ready. And so, what gym is this that you prepare at? Where's the gym?
I train at 2 gyms. One's at Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu in Pleasanton. There's actually one in Turlock, and I just visited one.
Okay, yeah, I have a few friends who go there actually, I think.
Yeah, it's great. I just visited. I've never been there before, and it's an affiliation of ours, so we're very good, close friends. And I just visited Alex, their head instructor there. So it was a very nice gym. But I also train at a Richmond Omni Movement.
Okay, and so is one gym for one discipline, be it jiu-jitsu, one's for striking? Can you kind of break down how you break down your training regimen?
Yeah, absolutely. Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu is where I do jiu-jitsu the most, grappling, judo, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and I get a lot of my sparring there. And then I go to Omni Movement for conditioning and striking primarily, because that's where my coaches are over there. The owner of the gym, Stephen Hahn, he's also a kinesiologist, so he knows how to really. He has some cool little toys in the gym, so that gets me going.
Bringing science to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So your nickname is the Shadow.
Yeah.
You're coming off a first round knockout win. Would you categorize yourself as a striker, or where do you see yourself as far as your style and technique?
I think I'm whatever I need to be for that fight. Mm-hmm. So if this guy's a really good grappler, that's the thing. I know my limits. I don't lie to myself. I don't say I have one-hit knockout power. I'm a jiu-jitsu wizard. Because the funny thing is, I've been training jiu-jitsu since I was 9. But then most of my fights end in knockouts. And it's only because of the fact that I know I'm not as talented as some of the guys I'm fighting, so I have to work extra hard to do my homework. I'm a student of the game, martial artist. So if a guy's really good at jiu-jitsu, I grapple a lot for that camp and I fight him. And my upcoming opponent's a wrestler, so I study that. And it's just the accumulation of being a student of the game, being disciplined, never thinking you're good enough, that allows me to perform the way I do. So to answer that question, my style is like a shadow. I'm shadowing my opponent, and when I fight him, I'm there and I'm not.
There you go. There's the tie-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. You're 22 years old. I'm about to be 30. I'm not that far behind you, but honestly, it feels like I am when I meet athletes of your age, and especially in MMA, multifaceted approach to training seems to be the MO. So is that something you've kind of approached since an early age? And what are those kind of the genesis of your interest in mixed martial arts?
I think the most important thing to training overall is just you need good people to show you the way. Mm-hmm. No matter how good you are, you could get led astray. You could surpass your coaches because you're just so much better. But then at the end of the day, if you don't have someone to kind of keep you on the straight and narrow, you're not going to be able to you're a crooked arrow. That's what I call it.
All right.
You get shot off target, and no matter how good you are. So you definitely need the right coaches to help you supplement it. And you need people that believe in you. They don't need to be the best coaches in the world. They just need to be people that are willing to sacrifice their time to see you grow, and in exchange, you sacrifice for them. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's like that, and I know for me, it was parenting. My mom, I couldn't ask for a better mom. Like she's everything I strive to be and more, and she taught me a lot of the discipline. And seeing how hard she worked, coming from Asia and just coming here with barely knowing any English to now she's doing super well. And I take that as inspiration. So she never like taught me lessons. She taught me stories. And then I kind of, in my head, I could put the pieces together, and I was like, oh man, that's awesome. And then that translated. It's the Asian culture.
Yes.
That the way they teach people.
Almost in parables.
Yeah, and it's just fascinating. And then when you grow up, the lesson, you may forget lessons, but the stories always stick with you because it's like, oh, I can connect the dots now. And that's what, in my opinion, being multifaceted is great, but unless you know what the meaning behind what you do, you don't know the purpose. So you always have to find the purpose first before you go on and do anything. That's what I think.
So were you always an athlete growing up, or was
No.
MMA kind of a later in life venture?
MMA was definitely late. I've been training since I was 9, but that was like on and off. I do jiu-jitsu like once a week, and then I used to play basketball, but I used to dribble the ball with 2 hands. Kind of got made fun of for
Granny
that.
shots too? Or?
Yeah, terrible.
Oh, no, okay.
I was never an athlete. I was very slow in school. People used to surpass me when I do push-ups and the mile run. I wasn't very athletic. I became athletic because I saw everybody doing better than me and I hated it, and I just found a challenge for me. And once I started getting faster and stronger, it wasn't a competition for like me against others. It was always like I could do better. Once I got addicted to progress, I was just like, man, imagine if I did this more, then imagine my mile time instead of 7 minutes, imagine 6. And then now I'm just like, imagine 6 becoming 5, instead of like, oh, he has a better record,
So right now, where would you put yourself on your own personal scale as far as where you want to be and where you are?
Oh, terrible. I'm nowhere close to where I want to be.
Okay.
I have a lot to work on, but I'm getting there, and I'm just happy about that. And I think no matter what you think of yourself, the truth is progress. Regardless if it's good progress or bad, you have numbers that you can work with. You could figure out what went wrong along the lines. And so far, everything's been going well. That doesn't mean that's the best results I could get, but it's getting me some results. So that's what I'm working on right now a lot.
Last time we spoke in person, I believe it was April of last year, you said you wanted to turn pro.
Yep.
And give yourself about 4 years in the professional game.
Yep.
Is that still the plan?
Well, I turned pro a little bit because of the reason of I couldn't find any more fights in the amateur scene, and a lot of fights were like falling through. I'm wasting a lot of time, and I'm not getting paid. I have to get paid. You got to do something.
Putting your body through the ringer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to prove my dad wrong because I'm telling my dad, I'm like, out of all my siblings, they all graduated these nice colleges. I'm the one fighting. They're all like doctors, and I'm like,
how many siblings?
I have 4,
Okay.
2 brothers and 2 sisters. One sister is a pharmacist. The other one's my brother is a anesthesiologist, and then my other sister's optometrist. And I'm just like,
all right.
I don't want to stick to the stigma of Asians always there's doctors or lawyers. There's too many of them, and I wanted to be that. I feel like when I grew up, there wasn't an Asian athlete growing up. So I was like, man, I want to be that one because especially with social media nowadays, like 10 years ago, there wasn't this. So I want to be that next generation of like, hey, come on, guys, like you guys, school's great and everything, but go out and get active a little bit, especially in my culture that I see back in Taiwan and China and stuff like that. It gets rough. People study. There's no physical activity. Everybody out there wears glasses, and it's just kind of like unhealthy,
So is that your end goal? Is that your goal for MMA is to become that inspirational beacon for your culture, or is it more kind of tangible? Like I want to make it to the UFC. I want to win a world championship.
I don't really care about UFC or being the best in the world. I'm taking these fights and I'm getting better and I'm progressing. And as a martial artist, it's kind of like that's my journey, to be the best version of myself. And these people are challenges. Like these guys are certain images of me in certain circumstances. That's why the shadow, like I have to shadow them and learn. My opponent, I'm actually learning from him based off this fight because he's a wrestler. I got to copy his style. I got to learn and think like him. So at the end of the day, when I'm done fighting, I could say, look at how many faces I was able to put on, So at the end of the day, it's like I'm no one, but at the same time, I am.
There
so
you go.
it's this mindset's kind of interesting. But I take inspiration from everything I see every day, And then the end game actually is to retire my parents and have them be able to kick their feet up. I don't need a nice car or anything. I want them to have like people take care of them. I want a nice house for them. I think my end goal is just to take care of those who sacrifice so much and put their time into me. That's the main end goal. But other than that, it's more like I want to do charity work and I want to like start organizations because I feel like there's a lot going on we have so much billionaires in this world, but we could have ended world hunger how many times? We've seen the statistics, but it's crazy that it's still there. So I want to be one of those people that I don't need a nice car. I need a car that gets me from point A to point B. Every now and then maybe give yourself something nicer.
You got to treat yourself a little bit, right?
A little bit, but nothing too crazy. And the end game is helping my parents retire, take care of my teammates, friends, coaches, and then have everybody invest their time in me reinvested in others to help others,
So you mentioned your family and your parents as a source of support for you, kind of like a way to focus your momentum in this MMA game. How do they feel about your career, especially since you weren't an athlete growing up? So it probably caught them by surprise a little bit.
Oh, big time. My dad was not happy with it. And my dad's one of those traditional Asian parents where he's not impressed with anything. I got my debut as an amateur, first round knockout, 22 punches unanswered. And my dad goes like, I have a bad hip. I sat down, drove all the way to Sacramento for a minute 22. I sat down, got back up, and then
he was mad. You ended it too quickly.
Yeah, and then my next fight, I beat the guy in 6 minutes. Well, it was a decision, but each round is 2 minutes, and then in between you have a minute off. So I add that all up. He's like, I have a bad hip. You made me sit there for so long. He's one of those dads. But I could tell he brags a little bit to his coworkers about it. I don't think my parents thought I was going to get anywhere. My mom's always kind of been loose. She didn't need me to do super well in school. She's like, as long as you're a good person. She's one of those moms. But as soon as she started seeing that, she was like, I lost a lot in jiu-jitsu tournaments growing up. I lost a lot. It wasn't like I was always the number one guy. I was terrible. And then she's just kind of like, at what point are you going to stop? And then I fought in an arena in Taiwan, the most prestigious arena. And she, shortly after, and she was like, wait, what? And then she showed up. Like the event, the venue that I was fighting at is where like Rihanna or Ariana Grande performs in Taiwan in Asia. And growing up, my mom used to sneak out of the house to go to those concerts.
Venue.
Yeah,
so she had memories of that place.
Yeah, and then now her son's fighting.
Now her son's fighting with people cheering for him.
Yeah, big time. So then I think she was a little impressed, but I definitely think I'm going back to Taiwan in July.
For another fight?
For another fight. So as soon as I'm done with Bellator, hopefully I stay healthy, fight goes well, and I go back in July to fight. So then I'm already setting things up in motion. But it's great. It's definitely like they're one of my main sources of keeping me disciplined.
So how does fighting internationally compare to fighting here stateside?
In Asia, it's a little bit nicer because of the quality of that, the fan base there, just because I'm Asian and they've never seen an athlete like me, come out of the blue, and then this is a growing sport. So to help grow the sport in an area where it's not very saturated, you stick out. So I do like that, it's for selfish reasons. They get you nice hotels,
Who wouldn't like that?
Yeah, who wouldn't, right? But I think it's also nice fighting out there because that's where I want to make the biggest difference, in Asia specifically. But I don't think there's too much of a difference. And then the weight cut I mentioned earlier, that is an issue, but there's not too much difference. I think both is great. I like to go back there because that's where my mom is currently right now. She does business. So I like going back there to see the friends there. Last time I brought a handful of teammates and coach out there, and they had a blast. So I like to show people around in Asia because I've been there for so long and so much every summer. I go back still that I like to show my teammates a good time out there because it's nice.
It's interesting listening to you talk about going back to Asia and Taiwan and kind of your roots. I'm a big MMA fan, but even before that, grew up on boxing. It kind of reminds me of the dynamic between like Manny Pacquiao and the Philippines. And do you see a correlation? Do you see kind of a not quite a mirror, but maybe a shadow of that?
I do, but I'm not a congressman.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
No, I kind of do see that. The only difference is MMA is so much a little bit different. And then I remember growing up, I did watch Pacquiao, and I was like, man, this is the guy. But I still think there's, like, if you take a closer look, there is major differences between him and I, just because of, like, I can only relate to him for so much. Because growing up, even though in 2002 he was, like, making a scene in America, he didn't really know how to speak English. So it was kind of harder to like, hey, remember that?
For the exposure, for the media,
the marketability, because everything now comes down to marketing and business, right? And so when you don't have like Kung Lee, he used to fight in San Jose, and he was killing it, but he was Vietnamese, Manny Pacquiao's Filipino. But then you look at the Asian population, China, they have like the biggest. So if you combine all of like Conor McGregor in Ireland, you combine Ireland and then combine China. I mean, the numbers are night and day. You can't compare. So growing up, there was none of there's a lot of strikers. Kung Fu came from China, Asia. But then you don't see any of these athletes out there fighting.
Not many.
Not many. Like in MMA, there's not like and then there's not one that's marketable. And I'm not disrespecting anybody. I hope I don't sound like that, but I'm just saying I haven't seen somebody like that when I was growing up. So now that there's this opportunity, I'm kind of like, Asia is more fitting in my opinion. But
yeah, I'm trying to think right now. Past fighters from Asia, boxing, even to MMA, is not many I can think of.
No, and then all the good Japanese fighters came to U.S. soil. They get beat up.
I want to say Costa Zoo, but I don't even know.
No,
I think he was Mexican.
Yeah. He was kind of a hybrid. Yeah.
Very interesting. So let's get to your opponent. You kind of alluded to him several times. Cass Bell, he's also 1-0. What do you know about this guy?
Actually, I think he's making his debut.
He was making his debut?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he's making his debut. He hasn't fought in a year and a half. I don't know too much about him. I just know that he was a wrestler. Like, I don't look into his like personal life or anything. I just look at what is his style. He's a wrestler. He's like 6 foot tall.
Okay.
And I like these matchups because I got something to prove.
For those not listening, how tall are you?
I'm like 5'7", 5'8".
5'7",
yeah.
okay. So a little bit of a challenge for you, or how does height come into play?
I fought guys that are taller than me my whole career. So I've fought guys taller than me, faster than me, stronger than me, but it's just I got to find a way to win. And I like that little challenge. I've lost in my amateur career once in an MMA fight. It was a very close fight.
Split decision, I believe, right?
Split decision. I had a lot of people tell me I won, but I don't get like angry over it. I'm just like, man, that was fun. Now let's find out how to get better. There's little challenges, you know? And with this guy coming up, he's got a family to feed. You know, the difference between a lot of these other fighters is they have families to feed. Everybody's circumstances is different. So they have certain things they're fighting for. And I need to like respect that in a sense where they're pushing really hard. They're training hard, you know, because they have mouths to feed. Me, I don't have a family technically to feed like that. A
nuclear family to feed,
yes,
yeah.
Exactly. So where is my drive and motivation? So I gotta match that with these guys. I gotta find it. I can't lie to myself and go like, well, I have a friend or something like that. You know, it just doesn't make sense. It's not the same. And so I have to find similarities, you know, in that. And also in terms of against this guy, he's a wrestler and he's had twice as many fights as I do if you accumulate all my
amateur
fights. Yeah,
record?
it's like
Okay.
17-5 unofficially. So he's a tough guy.
And he's older than you a little bit, right?
He is. He's 31, so he's not too far past his prime. If anything, he might be in his prime. You know, he's probably stronger than me. He's super tough. He's fought some tough guys in the amateur scene, but he took a year and a half off. And I already made my debut in Taiwan, and I don't feel pressure like under the lights and stuff like that, you know, because I think. I don't know why. I think just genetically, maybe I'm just more immune to it, I guess, or me being used to crowds. But I'm curious to see how he deals with that because he's going to be under the lights for the first time. He's coming all the way from Humboldt, and he's cutting to 135 for the first time. So he usually fights at 145 pounds. So he's.
Is there any concern about him making weight or?
Oh yeah, there is concern, but I'm not like I'm taking the fight regardless. There's no question about it.
Oh, so even if he misses weight, you're still going to take the.
Absolutely.
'Cause one thing I know about you, even the last time we spoke, is there's maybe a plague or a curse. Fighters seem to pull out when they're getting ready to fight you, either from injury or whatever the reason may be.
Yeah, I think in the amateur scene, you have a mixture of people that do this for fun because it's cool. You can get the girls and whatnot, they think. But in the pro scene, it's a little bit serious. You sign on the dotted line, there's penalties. He's making his debut. If he doesn't show up, he has a whole city behind him, a bunch of support. You know, what story are you going to tell people if you don't show up? So I don't think he's going to pull that card. I think he's a smart guy because he's been training for so long. He's not going to get injured last minute. So missing that weight's not an issue because I'll still take the fight. The only thing unfortunate for him is he's going to have to lose that purse a little bit. But he could be 10 pounds heavier. I'm still up for the challenge, you know, because it's been built up so much, you know.
Yeah, you don't want.
I don't want to
get another chance like this again, right?
Exactly, and I don't think weight should be that much of a factor to where like if he was like 5 pounds heavier than me at the weigh-in night, that should not factor in the last 2 months of work / the accumulation of my martial arts career. That should not, you know, destroy my skill set, you know. So I'm not worried about all that. The weight stuff.
Yeah, very complimentary towards your opponent. Kind of an honorable approach, I guess. That's on the fight side. The kind of trend in MMA nowadays, as far as marketing the fights go, probably not so honorable. A lot of trash talk, a lot of sensationalism.
Yeah.
Where do you weigh in on that? And what is your approach to marketing, either be a social media or fight week or media opportunities?
I think that's great. I think it's great. Trash talking is great. It's not me. It's not in my culture. That's what makes me different in terms of marketability. Is I don't have any tattoos. In Asia, they don't really like that. So marketing out there is a lot easier for me. I'm a very respectful martial artist. The fun thing for me is I don't have to put on an act like a lot of the other fighters. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to act. I got actually a couple I don't know actually how much I could say, but other than the fact that I had a couple offers for TV shows / movie roles out in Asia.
Oh, okay, out in Asia. So anything anybody would recognize? Or
no, not
okay.
here, but out in Asia I did, and it wasn't like I'm not talking about like low budget. I was actually being told it was. I knew some of the details. It was nice, but that's the kind of acting I want to get into. Not where you have a camera in front of me and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna knock this guy out round one. That's just not me. It's kind of cringy to me. I respect the people that do it because they're making their money. They are, and they're hyping up the fight. That's great. Floyd Mayweather does a great job. Conor McGregor does a great job. But what I like that I do personally is I'm not faking anything I'm saying. You know, you could go back to the first post of social media and try to find little traps or, things for me, but it's just me, after my fights, I don't go celebrate at clubs. After my last fight in Taiwan, I took my friends club hopping for them because they suffered through the fight camp with me, and I took them out. They, had some drinks. I got them some drinks. I didn't have one drink. I drink boba tea.
That's also a surprise. I've covered some fights. I know fighters, and win or lose, they always have a table at the bar or club somewhere,
No, that's not me. I like after this fight, everybody that's been a part of this, including you, to support and whatnot, is invited. I just have like a little dinner at a restaurant.
Okay, fan appreciation.
Yeah, just like I appreciate it. Surprisingly, I've actually gotten a lot of like people randomly come up to me like, "Hey, you're Khai, right?" I've actually been getting that.
Oh, really? You're getting recognized now.
It's starting to get to that point. In Taiwan, it was like a day and night. Like after my fight, I had people asking me to sign shirts, people asking me to take photos with. Over there, it's a little bit different in terms of like my status. So it's very cool. But and I always love talking to them. I'm like, how'd you know about me? They're like, well, we saw your fight. My friend sent this, this Asian kid that doesn't look that intimidating. They're like, no offense, don't beat me up, but you don't look like a fighter. I'm like, no, I know. That's the look I'm going for. I don't look like one. But over here, yeah, I do. And Tracy, every now and then I might get recognized by a couple of old school friends or now people that are like, hey, you fight out of here, right? So the 209, I get that crowd. And then in the fighting scene, I've been making a decent buzz just because of how active I've been, and the way I finish fights, it's pretty decisive, like one-sided. So it's pretty cool like that.
It's one thing to be a successful fighter, another one to be an entertaining fighter. You want to be kind of mix of the two.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't think you'll ever see a boring. Hopefully, you never see a boring fight of mine. Because that's just people pay money. That's why a lot of fighters. They don't like when people boo them and whatnot. I get it. We put our lives on the line for you guys and whatnot. But at the same time, you don't have to do this. You didn't sign up to fight for a bunch of people. You signed up to fight for money and then the glory, But my head instructor and brother-in-law, Dave Camry, always says, crave the battle, not the glory. So I think that's where my mind from a lot of the other fighters differ a little bit.
And do you... you mentioned people already noticing you. You haven't even fought on Bellator or like a major promotion or network or anything. Are you ready for that profile to maybe rise if you can get that W this Saturday and continue
I'm hoping
on this career path?
Yeah, I've been ready. I'm just kind of waiting for that opportunity. It's everything's about opportunity in life, and I've had this planned out since the very start. It's just a matter of when. And I've been waiting this whole time, and finally it's starting to happen. And I want to do things differently than a lot of the other fighters. I want to give back to more of the fans, the people that supported me, because I see a lot of these fighters think they're like a god or they sit on a throne, and I'm just kind of
they're buying into their own gimmick a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of rough, and I don't know who some of these guys are hanging out with, but I have a very, very honest team around me. After my fight in Taiwan, right after the fight, my friend goes, I've trained him since day one, so it's not like he's same level in terms of skill. But my friend Anthony, I hope he's listening. He's gonna listen to this, but he goes like, I'll still tap you. And I'm like, I just knocked a guy out in round 1, under a minute. And then he's like, no, I'll still tap you. And it humbles me because I'm like, man,
that's what friends are for.
Yeah, absolutely. Big time.
So the Khai Wu master plan, you just mentioned you have a plan. If you walk away with the W on Saturday, what is the next step in that plan? Is it a long-term contract with Bellator? I mean, you mentioned you're going to go fight in Taiwan again, but W on Saturday, next step for you.
Hopefully, I'm gonna give the people behind the scenes, the matchmaker and then the president of Scott Coker. I'm gonna give them a little signal like, hey, like keep your eyes out on me. Regardless if they sign me or not, I have another fight coming up, and then next year in Asia, this promotion is. I might be faced with 2 contracts in the future or multiple contracts. Obviously it's whoever gives me the best terms and conditions, but I would love to fight for Bellator, sign a contract with them, but that's not up for me to decide.
Options though too, so it's not like a do or die type of deal.
Yeah, absolutely. But would I like to fight for Bellator? Yeah, they had that James Gallagher. He fought in Ireland or Dublin.
I know what you're talking about.
And they did a main event for him. And his opponent was Anthony Taylor, who was 1-2 at the time, and he's 4-0, 5-0. So it's not like you have to be a crazy record. Like you don't have to be Fedor to be a main event for Bellator. I could easily fight. The
gatekeeping is a little more.
I could fight for Bellator maybe 2 more times, and if I build enough reputation and obviously marketing wise, I need a fan base. I need people that I'll put show up to my fights. So if that's the case, then maybe bring Bellator to Asia. I could easily do that. Nice. I think that's one of my plans too, is to negotiate with Bellator. Like, hey, I put this guy away. He was a debuter. You guys wanted to feel me out, see how well I do. I did great. Next guy you guys put in front of me, because Bellator might come back later this year. I'll get on that card, hopefully. Put that guy away and just be like, hey, look, I could do it. How about you guys bring me to Asia? I'll show you guys around. I know the fan base there. I know the people there. You guys just got to, help me market, bring Bellator over, and I could fight over there.
Does that put pressure on you to not just win, but to win in spectacular fashion?
There's always pressure, but when you train a certain way to put on, spectacular like finishes and like all those moves, it's kind of comes second nature, So I don't think there's too much pressure in that sense. And my mom always actually encouraged me, like, if you lose, it's not a big deal. And I in the beginning, when I first lost in jiu-jitsu, I took 9 months off. I was like, I'm quitting, or I got to figure out what happened. Because every tournament I go, I destroy everybody. And then all of a sudden, this one, I get armbarred by a kid from Brazil. He flew over from Brazil, 2 minutes, and he triangles me. I'm just like, this is embarrassing. And then she's like, why you stopping? Why are you quitting? And I took 9 months to myself. And then ever since then, I've took losses like it was nothing, and I take wins like it's nothing. Like when I win, all right, I'm glad everybody's happy for me. Let's celebrate. But then, as everybody's celebrating, I'm kind of slowly bringing myself back. Like, what went wrong during the fight, and I have to get, back in the zone. I'm like, look, this was great and all, but I'm ready, for another fight. And I think my friends kind of, they say I get a little too caught up in my head sometimes, like in terms of training. Like, you got to have some fun. So I'm a little too uptight sometimes.
So what is it that you do to have fun? Do you have any hobbies? Do you
kill zombies on Xbox every now and then?
Okay.
Honestly, I'm a huge comic book fan. I'm like a nerd. Like
so
Batman,
you must have been
Avengers.
Ecstatic about Infinity War.
Man, I don't want to give out any spoilers, so I'm not going to say anything. But that was crazy. I saw it 4 times.
You watched? Okay, I've seen it twice. I need to watch it again then, I guess.
It was fantastic. Me on the drive over here, me and my friend Roger, we were just talking about it, like back and forth. We were creating these own theories in our head, and we always like, oh yeah, but as cool as these characters were, what happens if we bring this guy over? So we do a lot of nerding out. We watch the TV shows. We eat a lot. I love food, especially these guys. I got them into boba tea. Man, I don't know if Turlock has any boba drinks, but if there is, we got to try it out.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. What
boba drinks? They're like
boba
drinks originate from Taiwan. They're the little black tapioca balls that you need. They mix it in like any type of drink you want, but it started with milk tea.
I think I've had it before, but I don't think there's a restaurant in town.
Yeah, it's starting to get really popular.
There's a Thai food restaurant in town.
They might have it.
They might have
it. I know it's popular with them. Thai milk teas, those are great. Hot pots, man. I know I'm in talks currently with somebody in Taiwan to do a boba tea sponsor. So
Okay.
hopefully they have like a drink or something that they could either name after me or just honestly, I'm in it for the free drinks. I even told them, you don't have to pay me. Use me as much as you want for marketing. Just give me
Just keep sending the drinks
give
over.
me and my team free drinks.
So nerdy pop culture stuff and boba tea, that seems to be your forte, huh?
Yeah, occasionally. And then just hanging out with my team, like whatever they need. Because when I'm not fighting, I'm not a rock star or anything. I got to help them train for their fights. I got to put myself through the grinder that they did for me. So there's no, and then we're always looking for bigger and better opportunities. That's why it's actually very rare that I get downtime. We're always like out, like clearing our minds with a hike, and then right after we're just talking about like, all right, what do we need to get done? What's next? You gotta be here in a year, so let's work on getting it. Or what's the best position you could be in? So a lot of focus. A lot of fighters are selfish, and I noticed that growing up, and I didn't want to make that same mistake. So you essentially, I still am selfish in a way because I invest in people that invest in me. So essentially, you still are, but at the same time, a rising tide raises all ships. So why not? That's a good plan. It's a win-win-win.
So tell me about your ships, so to speak. We spoke about your family, but not so much your gym family, your teammates.
Mm-hmm.
What is the atmosphere like that when you're in there training, either for a fight for yourself or for them? I follow you on social media. I see some of the pictures. You wearing a Dragon Ball Z training shirt. Some of the people just smiling. What is that camaraderie like?
It's good. I got my friend Roger every now and then showing up late, so we get to yell at him, make fun of him. And
Roger is here in studio. He's off screen.
Yeah. And then everybody kind of has their own thing. Our group is pretty diverse. So we have like a very nice, like, joking team. And these are just the guys that came up with me when they like didn't train. I taught them everything that they kind of know now. And then now they're turning their backs on me saying they know everything.
This is all in Tracy, right? Still?
This is all in Tracy, Livermore. My friend Anthony lives in Livermore.
Not many people stay in the spot that they raised up in, Usually you come from Tracy or one of these towns, maybe in the 209, and then you decide, I need to go to Sacramento or I need to go to San Jose or somewhere else.
Well, I feel like everybody complains about Tracy being boring or the 209 area. There's not much going on. And I'm kind of like, that's true. But instead of complaining about it, I want to do something about it. I actually have ideas of when I eventually go back to Asia and I fight there a lot more, I'm going to have to move back there and just move back and forth. So like 3 months stay, 6 months stay out there and come back. But I want to do business, like open up restaurants or a gym in Tracy. These are all ideas that are serious ideas, but I just got to focus a little bit more on the fighting career as of right now. But as soon as I get opportunities, I am going to give back to the community like that, just to create more of a diverse atmosphere in certain cities and just, hey, everybody's complaining about it, so I'm trying to change it, so they can be proud of like, hey, we at least have this one guy that fights out of Tracy, Well,
that's the thing about the 209. They do support their own.
They do,
as we've seen that, be it sports or any other arena.
Oh, absolutely.
So for the people in the 209, they listen to this, or maybe they watch our Studio 209 episode, which we will be filming on Saturday at the Bellator event. They want to find more about you online. Where can they find you?
They could find me on Instagram. My Instagram name is Khai_the_shadow_woo. If you just type in my name, Khai Woo, KHAIWU, on Instagram or Google or Facebook, you could find me pretty
You'll
easily.
pop up.
Yeah, there's
not many other Khai Woos.
No,
right?
there's not. There's definitely not. So you could probably find me there.
And as far as the fight on Saturday, is there a timetable as when you might be stepping into the cage so people can tune in during those preliminary cards?
Not necessarily, but I'll keep everybody updated on my social media platforms.
Okay.
I'll definitely, I always make announcements. I always engage with a lot of, because there's a lot of people always bombarding me with messages, and I love it. It's a good thing. It shows the support. So I do just tell everybody, hey, just stay on my social media, because I will be posting it, and then, or Facebook. And then, people find out like that.
Well, there's still time to purchase tickets, I'm assuming. Are there still tickets on sale if people want to go and check out the fight in person?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They can go online, go to Bellator 199. My poster, it tells you all the information where to get tickets, and then you just enter the offer code WOO, W-U, my last name, and then you could find out my section. So right after my fight, and if you're in that section of mine, I could see you. People that want to, I know I already have some people asking me, can they get some shirts or photos? Yeah, it's like not a big deal to me. I love talking to the new people that I haven't met, or mainly I've talked to on social media, but I've never met in person. I like meeting those people.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what I'm excited about the fight. I will be there with Loud Eddie Ruiz, who will be on camera for the Studio 29 episode featuring Khai Wu. We're going to get some before fight coverage, hopefully some stills or video from Bellator. They're kind of strict with their media policy. I can't shoot video of the actual thing. They got, licensing rights and everything.
Absolutely.
We will also be doing some post-fight interviews and any other type of thing we can do, maybe some live stream on our social media. You can find this podcast at 29headlines.com. You can find us on social media at 29 Magazine. That will also be the account for all of our updates during Saturday's Bellator event. That's talking about Instagram and Facebook at 29 Magazine again. And Khai, I just would like to thank you for coming in and accepting this invitation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate this opportunity and the coverage that you do for me and future fighters and everything that you guys do for the 209. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And who knows, maybe in the future we'll be covering you because you're going to be in a Taiwanese movie or something.
Yeah, or maybe, yeah, that'd be cool. Or get on one of you guys' magazine. I've never been on a magazine before.
You know what? Eddie and I have been campaigning for a sports issue. We're talking about there's a lot of good fighters in the 209.
Yes.
Yourself. I mean, even we have the champion right now.
Yeah.
At bantamweight, TJ Dillashaw is from the 209.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who else. There's more. Aspen Ladd, but she missed weight the last 2 times, so maybe I won't mention her right now. But fight fans know that the 209, they have some up-and-comers, of course, the Diaz brothers, but you almost don't even need to mention them because they're synonymous with the 209.
Definitely.
All right, well, that's it for this episode of 209 Headlines. Again, follow us on SoundCloud, on iTunes, and any other podcast platform. You can also find us on our YouTube channel, which is Studio 209, which is video will be up, and 209 Headlines and a whole bunch of other stuff. Just look at us online and we'll find us. Again, thank you, Khai.
Thank you.
All right.